Hey everyone, Red here, and today is the day we go over the community tier list. Over the past 2 months, I have made numerous polls asking the community to vote on every killer for what tier they believe them to be in. After letting it settle for a little bit, I'm excited to go over the results. I'm a numbers guy, so this was a lot of fun to do, and if you all enjoy it, I will gladly do it again. I will show how I calculated the results after the tier list. But no need for a long intro, let's go ahead and get into today's tier list. The best killer deemed by the community is the Spirit. Based on the comments from the community, Spirit's ability to mind game while being still, having great mobility and map pressure via phase walk, having near unrivaled 1v1 application, and being a pretty easy killer to pick up is what grants her the title as strongest killer in the game. The next killer who's going to be right up there with Spirit is obviously going to be the Nurse, where she actually only lost out to Spirit by 3% on the polls. According to the community, Nurse's high skill, high reward playstyle is unrivaled as she has the ability to outplay survivors at any loop so long as she plays it correctly. The only negative thing that brought her below Spirit here seems to be the ease of use and map dependability, as Nurses tend to struggle with maps that have a lot of line of sight blockers, where Spirit doesn't struggle in that department as much. Going down to A tier, we have Mr. Kruger taking first place. Freddy's ease of use, ability to shut down loops via his dream snares, and map pressure with his dream projection grant him this spot, and a lot of the community seeming very annoyed, not so much for him being strong, but more based on how easy of a killer he is to play. More of a low skill, high reward, leaving a bad taste in the community's mouth. The Hag comes right behind Freddy, taking the 4th best spot. Hag's ability to shut down loops and map pressure once her web of traps is laid out grants her overall a lot of pressure, and her overall strong presence in the tournament scene seemed to sway heavy here in the community's overall decision for this placement. The big bad Oni comes in next. This terrifying war-crying monster snowballs potential and map pressure from his Blood Fury rage is what commands this spot. A good note from a comment also states that the best counter to Oni is really to avoid taking that first hit and denying Oni his power, but of course they stated that this will come at the cost of numerous pallets being out of the game when he inevitably does get to Hulk out. Up next is our big boy Pyramid Head. His anti-loot power from Punishment of the Damned makes him very oppressive in the 1v1. He does well against altruistic players due to Punishment being able to hit multiple targets, and his only thing the community seems to really agree on hurting him is his map pressure. The hatchet-throwing Huntress comes right next to Pyramid Head. Her ability to injure survivors from crazy distances, fast downtimes, good 1v1 potential, and outplays on the majority of low wall loops, but her slow mobility, time wasted getting hatchets out of lockers is what really seems to bring her down just a little bit in the community's eyes. Following Huntress is Blight. His astounding map pressure and extremely high skill cap leads Blight to have a lot of tools to actually deal with what survivors can throw at him. His inconsistency in hitboxes while he's rushing and general counterplay is what really hurts him here. Doctor secures his place next. His anti-stealth and tracking from Static Blast is extremely potent, and Shock Therapy can shut down loops or force survivors to pre-drop pallets, along with having built-in game slowdown. But pre-dropping pallets can be a good way to slow down the Doctor. Hillbilly saws his way up next. Billy's ability to traverse the map and instantly down survivors from the full health state seems to be what the community is basing this placement around. Of course, it is noted on the comments as well that after the nerfs, he's definitely feeling a lot easier to face, and they don't see him as high in that tier. There's definitely a lot more controversy with this ranking, which was a ton of fun to read, and that will finish up the A tier. Starting in B tier, the highest killer we have here is Vami Mami. With her ease to injure survivors via Vile Purge, and if the survivors cleanse, the powerhouse snowball that it comes from Corrupt Purge is what seems to give her this place from the community. What seems to hold her back here though is the fact that she is dependent on the survivors' actions like cleansing, and the hit registration inconsistency from the puke definitely seems to have left a bad taste. Danny Boy, aka Ghostface, is here behind Plague. He gets a lot of love from the community in the sense that most find him fairly balanced, but states that what holds him back here in this tier list is that he has 0 gen pressure and is add-on dependent for maintaining good stealth time. The fact that even after exposing a survivor he still has 0 tools outside of his sneak attack are the real only things the community sees to be holding him back. Desolator comes in next, and this was actually pretty simple it seems in the community's eyes. Desolator's 1 vs 1 gameplay is extremely high as he can have insanely low chase time, but his map dependency and generator pressure or map pressure is where he really lacks. Bubba finally makes his way into the tier list. His ability to instantly down survivors, even numerous survivors if they are grouped up, and the ability to punish altruistic players extremely hard as he chews through pallets creating dead zones is what gives him this place. But his map control and the problems he faces with larger maps is what really seems to set him back here. Charlotte and Victor are up next. The comments here were more interesting than other killers, as most of the comments revolved around the twins having a very scummy playstyle or being very camp heavy, only to be good if played in those kind of ways. Say that the twins have no pressure outside of that, plus that they have an awkward feeling when playing them. Now, I haven't stated any of my opinions on this tier list so far, because I will be doing my own tier list in the near future. I will say that this rating here for the twins seems more based on if they are liked rather than if they are strong. Anyone in my community knows that I have a very strong, feeling with the twins, and I have them at a very high tier in my own list, and they will retain that spot for the near future. Wraith bings his bong after the twins. His stealth ability and map pressure with his new cloak speed buffs definitely helped him out in the community's eyes, but many still feel he struggles extremely hard when dealing against better players, and outside of stealth, his chase game is not good. Mr. Michael Myers comes right behind Wraith. While Myers' power can have strong power spikes and game-winning snowball potential, his time required to do so via stalking and his overall lack of map control or pressure in general has the community putting him in this spot. Though it does seem that the community would have gave him an S tier if he had his shirtless skin. Behavior, where you at? The good old Pupper's Demogorgon is next. This poll was done before Demogorgon received his changes. While the community feels he's definitely fun to play as and go against, his heavily telegraphed abilities hinder him. Essentially, Demogorgon doesn't do anything really poorly, but the community doesn't see that he does anything really well or is excelling anywhere either. And last place for B tier is Clown. While his anti-loop power is strong, he suffers heavily in every other area needed to be a really solid killer. And unfortunately, his rework just didn't tackle a single problem he actually had. And finally, we get to C tier, and at the top of that list, we have Legion. While Legion has a strong 1 vs 4 start and some game slowdown built into his kit via mending, he still struggles heavily on the 1v1 since after his power he's a standard M1 killer. The fact that his power becomes so much weaker on injured survivors seems to be why he is in this spot in the tier list. The OG Trapper is next. A big part of why Trapper is here is not due to his power inherently being weak, but more so that it's add-on reliant for the bags and that there's a lot of time wasted going and getting your traps in the game. A lot of the community are really just wanting a Trapper rework or even a buff. Pig comes second to last in the community. Her stealth mechanic has people feeling it's the worst compared to every other stealth killer, and while her traps can give some crazy game slowdown, they're just way too inconsistent. Outside of that, she struggles in every other department, especially as newer maps have been coming out with a lot more safer loops. Overall, the community sees her as a 0 anti-loop, 0 map pressure, and they see her being the worst stealth killer. And the worst killer in the game according to the community is the brand new killer, the Trickster. And for the poll's sake, I did wait until he received his buff to even ask the community on this. His chase time feeling super bad in most cases, where you'd feel better just to M1, and his map pressure on almost every map in the game being quite poor, while being slower at 110 movement speed, and moving even slower while throwing knives, with his main event being a use it or lose it power, he unfortunately just falls apart for the community, leaving a really bad taste for playing him when they could just feel more rewarded while playing Huntress or Deathslinger. Overall, the bad taste is there, but on the bright side, the comments did state he was a lot of fun, he's just extremely bad. And that, everyone, is it for the community tier list. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. I had a ton of fun doing this, and I really hope you guys want to see more in the future. For those of you wondering how this list was put together after I received all the information, here's the notepad version of the tier list. A killer's tier placement was based on the highest percentage, and their place within that tier was based on the second percentage. If the second percentage was for a higher tier, you wanted a higher percentage. If it was a lower tier, you would want a lower percentage for a better ranking. But everyone, that is it for today's video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Much love, and as always, I'm Red, and I'm signing off.